I'm being joined on the program by the Group CEO of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Mr. Ameliorate. Thank you so much indeed for
Thank you very much,
talking to us on Channels Television. Do you get fuel in your car these days? Yes,
we do. In Abuja today, there are not a single queue. You do see sporadic queues early in the morning and late in the evening. Otherwise, there's no problem with queues in Abuja today. And this ties to what is happening across the country. We're seeing gradual easing everywhere in the country. We're not there yet, but we have a line of sight around when this will ease.
I mean, it's so sad the kind of scenario Nigerians have been made to go through. In the past 3 to 4 months, under the weight of buying petrol from the fuel station. And I'll put some background to this. We see price variance from one point to another and even from one state to the other, with prices reportedly at about 600 naira per litre in some part of the country. Queues have not abated in some part of the country, despite promises from various authorities, including others from the DSS. There's also seemed to be no sanctions nor end in sight. You're saying that there is some easing. But if I may ask you, sir, what is actually going on? Who is responsible? Who can we hold responsible for these shortage that we have seen over the last months?
Maybe shortage may not be the right word to describe the situation. We have a huge logistic challenge. And this has been persisting in the last 4 to 5 months, as you have rightly pointed out. But how did it start? I think it's important to know what happened. First, there was a glitch in terms of road failure around certain axes because of the flood that we have. Nobody has control over flood. I'm sure you agree with that. Once that flood happened, we are unable to evacuate product from one location to the other efficiently. And mind you, that in this country today, our redundancy is around 3 days as a result of the huge logistic challenges that we have in the country. Once you have a glitch of 3 days, you will have a challenge of resolving this minimum of 3 weeks. This is very, very understandable. This is the reality that happens. So once you have that situation, a number of things come into play. What comes into play? Number one, arbitrage will come in. Now, people would like to take advantage of that situation. They will move product from where it is sold cheap to where it is sold expensive. While you're having the same volume, because it will make sense for business people, and that's greed also, by the way, let me qualify it properly. Greed will push people to hold the product even in their tanks and in their locations so that they're able to sell it at maximum price. So once we had that glitch last year, it's a very cyclic thing. So that you continue to see interventions that you have to do. But as you're doing this also, there are changes that happen that nobody saw it coming. It wasn't planned. It wasn't anticipated. And what change came? For instance, once product land into this country, you have to take them by small vessels, we call the STS vessels, the ship-to-ship transfer vessels, to the depots. Or some of the vessels are actually able to deliver right straight into some of the depots. Now, the cost of hiring those vessels shift from about $21, early January last year, to close to $80 per day in some locations today in the country. And our compensation template under the pricing regime that we are running today did not anticipate, didn't see that coming. So somebody has to pay for this, and so that adjustment must take place. And of course, you also have a secondary issue, which is the issue of managing the depots themselves and the trucks. For instance, every depot buys equipments and facilities, manages them from materials that they have to buy overseas. And those materials, we must find FX to buy them, foreign exchange to buy them. They also move, prices move without any reference to our local situation. So their costs rise while we are not able to adjust for the benefit that they will require from the pricing template for them to recover their total cost. Now, even when you take the product out of the depots, you have to put them on trucks. Those trucks run on diesel. Our current template is premised on gasoline AGO price or diesel price of around 300 to 400 naira to the liter. Today, because of the shift on the market, a liter of AGO sells to close to 900 naira, between 800 and 900 naira. So this is not anticipated. Nobody saw it this coming. Nobody's going to take this product free from Lagos to Maiduguri at the same price and of course, also recover their costs. And of course, as a chain of issues follow this. As soon as you leave the depots, a number of taxes and levies happen, of all manners, until it gets to the final destination. So once people see this, they will do everything possible to recover their costs. no matter what you do, this is reality that is unfolding. But as you are also doing this, something also happened in the global market, which is very, very obvious to all, is that there is a shift in the market, there is a shift in the economic capacity of some of countries around us. For instance, today, you will find Nigerian fuel in nearly every West African country. The reason is very, very simple. First of all, some of these countries are unable to import petroleum products because they cannot afford the current FX regime. For instance, a cargo of gasoline used to cost around $18 to $25 million maximum. Now is going close to $70, $75 million. Some of these countries can simply not raise the necessary letters of credit to make those procurement. And by the way, whatever border controls that you have, the reality is that when you move product from our country to any of these countries around, you are seeing price oscillation between $400 to $800 across the border. And there's so much you can do when you have over 2,700 of border, hundreds of border control points, and a number of necessities that you will see on the ground. That is reality that you have to deal with. It's impossible almost to stop across borders.
Fortunately, the subsidized Nigerian products are getting into these other West African countries. But guess what? The feelers out there is that people are blaming the NNPC. How do you absorb? Can you absorb the NNPC of all of these problems?
Yes, I don't think it's about absorbing any institution. I think it's a systemic issue. It's a major distribution issue, and then also the challenge of a value chain. For instance, when the products come into this country, you have to move them into ship-to-ship vessels, into terminals. You know, a number of partners, institutions are involved in that process. You know, there's no one single point where you say this institution is responsible for this, because you have a chain of issues. You need the Navy, you need the inspectors, you need NNPC, you need the regulators. Everybody has to align until you take this product to its final destination. So when you come to cross-border smuggling of petroleum products, you know, it's very obvious that so much is being done. I've engaged the Customs Service substantially. They are doing so much work around it to make sure that we contain that situation. But it's not about NNPC or any institution. It is an arbitrage environment. Once you create a huge arbitrage environment, you're going to have this challenge. It's not even about the people. It's the incentive that is there. For instance, when you take a truck of fuel in Lagos and you take it to a regular filling station, say in Maiduguri, the furthest part of the location, your net gain is 270. Your margin is 270,000 naira. Just imagine. If you are able to take this same product across the border, you can have margin of up to 40 million naira or 50 million naira. So it's very, very impossible for you to contain a situation where you have an arbitrate environment that is very simple to contain. It's not really about.
I mean, how do we then contain it? I mean, I'm quick to start thinking about the pains of Nigeria and how that will ease. But that arbitrate environment that you talk about, how do we contain it? It can no longer continue, can it?
Yes, arbitrage is. Two things are responsible for arbitrage. First of all, as a country, and I really do see why this is coming from, and the reason why government will insist on a subsidy regime. We know the relationship between petroleum prices and commodity prices. Nonetheless, it is the policy of government to sustain a subsidy environment. That means your prices here are cheaper than what you have across the border. Now, the second part of it is that even where you have an environment where the prices have normalized to come even to market, assuming the prices in Nigeria is the same thing with Nigeria, Republic of Benin, Cameroon, and so on. Even if you do this, you know, you have a reality around you, which is that these countries are currently fiscally challenged. They are not able to import this petroleum. But we keep data on around who imports what into what country. Now we know that they simply cannot do this. It would have been a market situation. It would have been an advantage to our country delivering product to this location. So the combination of these two will make it practically difficult for you to control cross-border smuggling.
So I'm quick to look at solutions now before I get into the other technical details. Because as far as every Nigerian is concerned, as soon as we said we're going to speak with you, what they are concerned about is when will these problems, these fare queues, because it transports into something else, cost of transportation will jack up, and cost of commodities also will jack up. So when do you think we can finally have a breath of fresh air when it comes to this issue of scarcity of fuel, or the queues that we're seeing across the country?
Yes, I think it's good to also address why do we have the queues. to begin with. I think it's very important to answer that question before you jump to when will it end. First of all, once you have a glitch, there's a mindset that will come with it, very, very natural anywhere in the world, that when people see some semblance of scarcity, when they see a queue of 10 cars in a filling station, for instance, the natural thing anyone will do is that if your tank is at half full, you say, let me just peel off. And then when you enter the fuel station, in the past, it is very possible for people to say, let me just buy 10,000 naira worth of fuel or 5,000 naira worth of fuel. But once you see a situation where you may not have the next time you come back, the chances are that people will fill up their tank. So ultimately, people will stay longer in the fuel station even though you have fuel that is available for dispensing. And this is very, very natural and understandable. What we do under this circumstance is to make sure more fuel than normal is available so that everyone that comes in to fill his tanks is able to fill his tank and leave, so that over a period of time, those requirements will ease out, and so that those people will not jump into the fuel. So the real reason really is not about even scarcity. They are fueling, for instance, today, year to date, our average evacuation from the depot is up to 63 million liters a day. So there is no paucity of delivery into the fuel station. There's no way you can actually explain that there's a lack of fuel in the country, but it's in the wrong location in most of the times. And secondly, not just in the wrong location, people have reacted very, very
Which of these locations are the wrong locations you're referring to?
Yes, what I mean by wrong location is that once you have a situation of arbitrage, oil marketing companies and oil traders will naturally find where is the highest price that I can get. So they will move those products to those locations, and those locations can be the fuel station. They can be in trucks. It makes sense now for a businessman to say, okay, let me keep it wherever I can find somebody who is going to buy at 350, I will sell it to him. So cumulatively, you have so much volume in your hands, but it's not getting to the right location. And secondly, because of this situation that has come on the table, when people go into fuel station, they will naturally fill their tanks. And filling that tanks means that you spend more time in the fuel station. Mind you also, there's another secondary issue that you have to deal with. When people come in, today now our country is making progress through the electronic platform for payment. Sometimes these platforms don't work efficiently as you want. So instead of spending 5 minutes making the payment, you probably do 10 minutes. And where there's any glitch on technology, people will insist that, look, I will leave this place until you fill my tank. So a combination of issues that actually brought up this situation.
For those who see conspiracy here, are they wrong?
Conspiracy, why would anyone do this? I think this is
It's a widespread feeling across the country that there is a conspiracy against the Nigerian people to make them suffer.
Maybe let me state it differently. First of all, I think there's hardship caused by this situation, no doubt about it. People spending more time in fuel stations than they would have ordinarily done. People paying more for what they could have paid less. And not only that, losing man hours and so many other complications and pains. So we apologize to Nigerians for this. We're sincerely sorry that this happened. But simply, it cannot be a matter of conspiracy. It is impossible. When the floods came, the floods don't respect anyone. They don't respect any situation. Remember that for about 10 days, there's not a single vehicle that crossed Lokoja into Abuja, for instance. By implication, crossing into most part of northern part of this country. And very recently, I'm sure you are very familiar with this, very recently, we have seen a situation where, because of an accident of 2 trucks around Agge in Niger State, trucks could not leave that location for 3 to 4 days. You have hundreds of trucks lined up in that location, but they cannot move. So once you have that glitch, it sends a number of other collateral consequences. They come up, natural. It's very natural. So once you are not able to deliver to one city, people will see there's constraint, even though you have the product in the trucks, and then they'll start queuing up. And that queuing up can only be freed when you have excess supply coming into those locations. And those locations are differentiated. You can have problem in one location, you may not have in another place. But I'm not sure anyone. It's not possible. It's not practical. We had a real problem that we are going through cycles to resolve. We have issues of the market that no one saw coming. And not only that, you see, when you have a logistic nightmare, you have a logistic nightmare. For instance, let me tell you, in this country today, every day, we load 1,800 trucks, 1,700 trucks every day to move on our roads. Today, we have over 35 to 38,000 trucks running our roads, trying to deliver product to location. Anytime you have a glitch, and many things can cause this: road problems, flood, union issues, and so many things that no one will sit down to organize and say, look, let's have float so that we can create this situation. I'm not sure anyone will be fair to say that it is because of some other consideration other than the practical reality that we're dealing with.
Because there are those who hold the view that there are some people who are benefiting from the challenges that the suffering that Nigerians are facing. And it takes me to the question. About 64.4 million is about the average volume that we have. But since I'm speaking with you now, there's this disparity. Customs have said at some point that no, that Nigeria is not consuming as much as the volume NNPC says we are consuming. And those who will think that if Nigeria has so much of that volume, we shouldn't be experiencing this kind of glitch. Can you give us the figure? What is the consumption per day that Nigerians are consuming on petrol?
I don't know if you have bothered to look at our website 2 days ago. We published the total volume of petroleum product dispatched from the depots, evacuation from the depots in the last 1 week. And it's very, very clear that what we have done, average from January 1st, from the beginning of the year to today, we have done average of 63 million liters of evacuation from the evacuation from the devil. Let me be very, very precise.
Every day?
Every day, average, since January 1st. Now, the meaning of that is that we know every truck that has left every depot in this country. We have numbers, truck numbers, destination fuel stations, destination states. And we have also published this by list of states where those trucks go, the number of trucks that have left those trucks. Now, when they leave the depot, so where would they end up with? That's the question. And that is what would have translated into national consumption. Today, I've made it very clear that it is practically impossible under an arbitrary environment and also under a situation where your neighbors are helpless for you to say that there will be no cross-border movement of petroleum. That's why we're making it legitimate in the sense that NNPC is now buying fuel stations across our borders so that we can deliver to them legitimately. It's very simply impossible to stop this until you're able to resolve this arbitrage issue. So definitely what you're dealing with is a logistic challenge rather than anything else. So now coming back to your question, when would that ease come? I think it's a very valid question. For instance, once you're able to put up more product into the market, deliver more than what the country needs, which is essentially what you have to do so that you can achieve that optimum level, so that ultimately people will go to the fuel station, fill their tanks, and they will have no need for coming back until after a week or so, and then that way you can achieve stability. And we have tested this. It works. For instance, in Abuja here, under normal circumstances, what we call dispatches into Abuja is around 120 trucks to 130 trucks maximum. Now, we have done consistently over 150 trucks in the last 1 week. And the end result is that you are seeing the queues have gone. So we know that the solution is excess supply. So once you're able to do excess supply across the country, across location, you are going to resolve this issue.
When are you likely to have that?
Exactly what we are doing now. We are ramping up evacuation today in many depots on daily basis. Today now we are doing more than 70 million liters into the market against the regular evacuation level of up to 63 to 64 million liters. So this will work. And we believe that the ease that we are seeing in many locations today, I don't want to cite specific location, but I know that we are seeing ease across the country. This is easing up. I believe very strongly that within the next 1 week, I'm not saying that you are going to have zero queues in the next 1 week, no. I can't guarantee that because a number of things are out of our control. And of course, the market forces will determine some of these issues. But I believe that we are going to see substantial and relative ease compared to today in the next 1 week.
That sounds like a good news. I mean, for a lot of Nigerians, and that should calm some nerves because people, and what happens is that when there are queues, it causes traffic. People panic, and there are a lot of things happen. There are all those, those who also have the opinion that why deliver to tank farms who do not have sufficient filling station? They are not as close to the to those who are buying on the road. Why not dispense straight to those who have filling station? Why are you not considering that?
Yes, you have two categories of marketers. In our terrain, you have marketers who are integrated end-to-end. That means they have their vessels, they have their fuel stations, they have their depots. And then you have marketers who don't have this. Now, when you pull all the marketers that have integrated capability, even if they don't have vessels to begin with, they cover only 60% or about 50 to 60% of the total national fuel station spread in the country. So when you say you are left with this, you can't do it. But then you have another set of marketers who don't own depots. They are called the independent marketers. They constitute a very, very huge fragment of the marketing framework that we have in this country. So you must have facilities that will deliver product to them. And that's why you cannot avoid having depots that are delivering to those who don't own these depots, but these depot owners don't necessarily need to own a fuel station. And why do we even have these depots to begin with? It's a pipeline problem. Because in our country today, the way we are organized in terms of the pipeline network is in such a way that no city, no location will be further than 400 kilometers from the nearest depot. That means that you do not need this large number of trucks that we are seeing in the country. You're also bringing product close to its users. But our pipelines are not functioning. And why are they not functioning? For instance, they have integrity issues, no doubt about it. But more than this, for instance, let me put it in perspective. You recall what happened in Jesse around 1998, where a number of people died, unfortunately. But the real reason was that they were trying to scoop fuel from our pipeline. And there was so much vandal action on those pipelines that since that day till now, we are not able to pass petroleum product to that line. And that means that you are not able to pass product from Warri into Bini, into Ore. That means Ore depot becomes inaccessible from that period. Now, taking another dimension, we have a depot called the Atlas Cove Depot. It's a reception depot. Between Atlas Cove Depot to Ilorin, you have the Mosimi Depot, Satellite, the Ibadan, then all the way into Ilorin. Now, this line, we are forced to shut it down. The reason is very simple. There are vandal actions to the extent that we are losing up to 24% of the total product that we pass into this line. When you pass 10 million liters and you lose 24%, that's 2.4 million liters daily from that line. Remember that 1 million liters gives you about 46 trucks. That means you are losing over 100 and 120 trucks to thieves and bandits of any sort. Some of them putting into barges, which Nigerian Navy has helped us to eliminate them. Some are dragging into fuel stations, and so on and so forth. Connections of uncountable proportion. And taking another axis, so that we don't it's not a local problem, it's across the country. For instance, when you pump product from Port Harcourt Refinery Depot into Aba, you lose about 4 to 5% of that product. That is huge because technically you shouldn't lose more than 0.5% of the product. But we are losing 5%. Now, once you take it to Aba and you pump it to Enugu, that's the time we pump 10 million liters, we could only recover about 2. And without a spill, not a single spill. So what would you do? So do you continue to use this pipeline? No. Are there integrity issues? Absolutely yes. And this is happening across all our assets across the country. So what did we do to curtail this? First of all, there must be a different framework. The pipeline must have access to technology, a different way of managing it, burying them deeper, we call it HDD. You must get third parties to put their money into it. And that's why we're going through a BOT process where private sector will come in, lay these lines once again all over, repump some of these depots so that we can now restore a supply through the pipeline. Until you do this, you cannot eliminate the use of fuel depots. And those depots are naturally, not every marketer has a choice. In example, I'm doing a depot to sell to others. I'm not ready to do filling stations. So when you say let's sequester all the products to fuels, depot owners who are fuels, it is impossible to cover the whole country. Therefore, you will have no option than to make sure that you have depots that.
The pipeline still looks to me like what we see in other climes as a reasonable means of transporting the product. But what is the permanent solution? We must be thinking about that.
It's not just reasonable. Pipeline is the cheapest way of transporting petroleum, any form of liquid.
There are maintenance issues, there are integrity issues on these pipelines. What are you doing to ensure that going forward we have a solution, a permanent fix?
No, maybe
to the vandalism.
Maybe differently. What are we doing now? I think this is a better way of putting this question. So I'm returning
what is being done now?
So
what is being done now?
What's being done now is that we have put in place a build, operate, and transfer mechanism. We have selected contractors who will put their money, billions of naira, to make replacement on those pipelines, to put their money so that these depots become functional once again, and not only that, so that they can recover their costs from the tariff that will come from this pipeline. It will make business sense. That's what we're doing now.
You have been also blamed, the NNPC that is, of lack of forecasting, and that if you had forecasted properly, maybe we wouldn't have found ourselves. You've given a lot of explanation about how we found ourselves here. Have you learned some lessons about looking ahead and projecting properly? Should we have any kind of exigency or emergency like we had in the flooding issue, which is one of the situations that you said came up as an emergency?
Yes, let me also still come back to the pipeline. You know, when the pipelines were active, those depots are designed to be holding national strategic reserve. That means that at any one time, the interland depots have capability to hold up to 30 days of national supply. That means that, first of all, you're not going to have problem or long-distance travel. So it minimizes the risks of issues around access to road, stability of our roads, and also natural phenomena like flood and other weather issues. Once the pipelines are not available, you are left with nothing other than manage the trucks. And those trucks' reliability or redundancy is just 3 days. That's the point I'm trying to make now. So there's no amount of forecast that you will make that will tell you there will be flood. So that doesn't exist. Once you have a glitch of 3 days, you will have to recover from it. There's no other way of doing it today now, other than restoring the pipeline. That pipeline is designed in such a way that we can move product. Now, how do you build 30 days of stock in the hinterland using trucks? It's practically impossible. That means that you have to move 30 days supply means about 60 million liters times 30 to be moved on trucks while you continue to supply to the fuel stations. It's not a real lack of forecast. We know the challenges. We always prepare for this 3 days glitch, and the ultimate solution is to restore the pipeline.
How do you explain the price differentiation that we're seeing? Is this some kind of racketeering, and who are those behind it?
First, I must also add that we had a very, very fruitful engagement with our partners, the oil marketing companies, the government security agencies, and also the other regulatory institutions that are responsible for some of the activities, including the other all spheres of the government security agency. We have an understanding. First, there are issues that market must adjust to, which is the delivery issues from the ship into the depot, and also the realities around the cost of moving product from depots into fuel station. That in reality, we have an understanding. There is an element of which government has taken care of, which is government has subsidized the landing cost of this petroleum product into the country. So that's kept firm. NNPC delivers irrespective of marketer at the same price to every marketer at our marine location. So what changes is the cost of distribution, which, as I mentioned earlier, the template, the current template, or they did not anticipate some of these drastic changes that happen in the market in terms of foreign exchange, in terms of the market change of the cost of freight of vessels, and so on and so forth, and other taxes and levies that we have never seen or imagined that they will happen. So that adjustment that we have done with the marketers to recognize those realities has brought at par every sale at every depot. There's an understanding that no depot will sell around above the prices that we have had an understanding with them. That means it has normalized ex-depot price. Once you normalize double price, the rest of the costs are taken by the market. It's being borne by the market, and that means that at every location today, nowhere in this country should sell petroleum product above 200 naira for litre. For instance, this is what you saw. Anyone that does above this is in the grid territory. And grid, you cannot control grid. So the only thing you can do by grid is legislation, punitive actions, police, all kinds of things that you can do to contain people's grid. Now, what will check that is the very fact that when they have their sufficient product beyond the ordinary need, which is what would be sufficient now, something that is out of the normal, that grid will fill those vacuum, which is created by their grid, so that ultimately those grid will go away. But what you can also do, you can take punitive action. But does it always serve the purpose of the challenge that we're facing today? The answer is probably not so in the immediate sense, but certainly some punitive action needs to be taken.
There is another knotty issue, which is the issue of the subsidy. As the only importer of the fuel into the country, how do you calculate, how do you tabulate the issue of subsidy?
It is very simple. First of all, we transfer product to oil marketing companies at 113 naira per litre, so that we can establish a transfer price, that's a market price of 170. That was 1 year ago. So that's the basis of all the estimates. Now, there's some adjustment that has brought us to the reality of the cost of vessel that I've mentioned over and over. And that adjustment took us to a different level in terms of the logistics. But what is firm, what NNPC has kept hold is the transfer price from our import, we call it the landing location, into the marketing company. So today now, if you just check, this is not rocket science, anyone can find this out. Today, yesterday's data is that this product will land in this country at 295 naira to the liter. That means you have to sell it at 113 to the marketing companies so that they will be able to maintain the current subsidy regime that we are running. It means you have about 185 naira per liter of subsidy on every product that comes into this country. Now, if you look at the average that we have done of 63 million liters January to date, and you convert it to 365 days, that means you need 4.27 trillion naira for you to meet the subsidy requirement for this country. This is really what you are dealing with. That's what subsidy means.
At what point are you paying the subsidy?
Today, we are the only importer of petroleum product. We have nowhere by law, there's a provision for 3.36 trillion naira for January to June ending subsidy regime for the country. That means technically, the Ministry of Finance is supposed to be giving us checks against this subsidy value on a monthly basis. But it's not a real situation in the sense that we are a company owned by the state today. We have fiscal obligations because whatever you do, ultimately, whatever money NNPC makes is from the fiscal obligation, taxes, royalties, and margin. All three, as today, because we have not diluted the ownership of this company, all three belong to the state today. So the only way NNPC can do this is to hold back the fiscal obligation so that we can use that to buy the product and come and sell it to the market. This is really what we're doing. We don't do any cash transfer.
Is the daughter vessel are they factored in the subsidy regime?
At this point, no.
Yeah. So it's at
the market determines.
That's at the point you pay the subsidy.
No. See, what it means was, let me maybe different it in a different manner. Different way of putting it is that when you bring product, you go to the market, you buy, you put it on a vessel and bring it to the country. So the cost that is going to translate to is you are selling at 209. You are bringing it into the country. We call it the landing cost at 295 naira to the liter. But you don't want to sell it at 295 to the customers. That's to the major marketers and all other marketers, NNPC and so on. So you have to sell it to them at 113 naira for you to establish price in the range of 165 to 175 naira. That's the meaning of the subsidy regime. So that difference between the market price and the cost of landing is what we are now attributing to the subsidy regime, which is what I said today. In every liter you buy today, anyone that buys, government is subsidizing you at 185 naira to each liter that you buy.
Let's talk about the refineries.
Yes.
What is the state of things?
Maybe the better way of doing it is that next week I'm inviting you so that with me and you will go to the refinery so that you will see the work that is going on. Today, we are very comfortable with the rehabilitation work that is going on in Port Harcourt refinery. We have promised that we'll do first fuel before the first half of this year, and its line of sight is clear that we can deliver on this. Warri refinery rehabilitation is ongoing. We are trying to align that timeline to ensure that first fuel doesn't mean completing the rehabilitation exercise, because this is a refinery rehab project. It's a stage by stage, phase by phase. So you can have fuel as you continue to do your rehabilitation work. We think we can do this, but for Kaduna, I can't promise this. We just signed off the contract for the rehabilitation of Kaduna refinery to take quite a longer period of time, and I don't think we can establish this before the end of this year.
Would it be your considered opinion that we'll sell off these assets once and for all?
Selling the asset, you see, when you sell your asset, it will be the decision of share. First of all, let's get it very, very clear. I think it's a legal issue also. The law is very, very clear today that this company owns this asset. It has been transferred to the NNPC Limited as its own asset. There is also a provision within the law for NNPC's interest or equity to be diluted so that Nigerians and others can buy equity in this company, which is the work we are doing to make sure that this company is IPO ready so that when the shareholders decide to dilute their equity, they will be able to do this. The law provides that the National Economic Council, which is a body of all governors, and the Vice President to sit down and agree on the value and the quantum of that dilution that can be done. Now, that's one way of taking your hands off investment in certain aspects of it. Also, because you are a limited liability company, you can decide that, look, I don't want to keep this anymore. I would like to sell this. It is selling an asset. You must have an asset that people will buy. that means that you have to prompt it up in a manner that people will like to buy it. It's an option for the limited liability company to say, look, at the end of this, I've finished rehabilitation, this is working now, come and pick this, other than the process of selling equity.
So I look at it in this manner. Dangote is coming on stream. That's a threat to the four refineries. And so those who are of the school of thought that as soon as this happens, the appetite to fix the refineries becomes very, very low. And so those who think also that maybe we should put this for sale to get a maximum, instead of the country spending a lot of money on turnaround maintenance and all of that, and we're not getting maximum benefit from them.
No, I think Dangote Refinery is a complement what we're doing. And no, it's not a competition. By the way, I don't know if you're aware that we own 20% of the Dangote Refinery. So we're part of it. So we saw the value. We know that this is going to be of great value to our country and to our company. So having said this, today, we are a net importer of petroleum product. Even when the Dangote refinery comes up, that plant has capacity to produce about 52 million liters. Even if you keep all the products in this country, you still have a deficit, looking at our current level of consumption in the country. So you have a deficit in the market. And by the way, you also have deficit around you. In most of West African countries around us, most of them are importing fuel from Rotterdam and so many other places, even from India. You may be surprised. So what this will do is that it will create a capacity for our country to, first of all, to be self-sufficient. It will complement our ability. Remember that even when we're able to complete the rehabilitation of a refinery, it can only do 80 million liters of gasoline. That means you do need the Dangote refinery for you to meet your domestic requirements. So the combination of this is that you will meet local refining, you meet local consumption needs. And not only that, you'll be able to become net exporter of petroleum. It's not a liability at all, and nothing will stop. By the way, the rehabilitation product is bound by a very firm contract, including a non-performance bond in the contract. So it's not going to stop. Nothing will stop this rehabilitation work from going on. We are borrowing money to fix it. The borrowers will make sure that you complete it, otherwise you will not be able to pay their money. Some of the payments are tied to your ability to make these refineries work. Part of the conditionalities is that they are not even going to allow us to operate this refinery, that we must put in place an operation and maintenance contract to make sure that it's out of our hands. So we understand this. These are all preparatory to an IPO situation. And ultimately, when you plug these refineries for sale, anyone will buy it.
So sometimes this year, we should see one or two of those refineries come alive.
That's the point I made.
Let's gradually come home now. And the NNPC, since it transformed into a karma company, and all of those elaborate events that we saw announcing the new NNPC in July last year, there are those who think that nothing really has changed. But Mr. Carey, what has changed?
I think what do we expect to change? I think this is a different question that I can put. People should expect that. What do you expect from a company? Company must declare profit. Company must declare dividend to its shareholders. So how do you measure this? Your book of accounts. And our book of accounts are public now. We're not ashamed when we said that in 2018 we lost 803 billion naira. Today, by the changes that has happened since 2018 till date, we have seen gradual shift in the position of that company because we are much more cost conscious, we are much more efficient, we are much more modern company, we have better governance structure, we are much more transparent to our shareholders. And ultimately, what happened? This company was able to make profit for the first time in its history of 297 billion naira. And the following year, which is 2021, we also made another profit of over 600 billion naira. So this is how you measure a company that is performing. And I'm sure that despite all the challenges of 2022 is also going to be a very great year for the company. That means this company, what matters to a company is its ability not to operate at loss, to deliver value to its shareholders, to be able to declare profit, and shareholders will determine what they want to do with their profits. So if you look at that perspective, this company has done great. Today, and I'm sure if you check this, and I invite you at any time to come and take a look at it, we have one of the most efficient process and system that you can find in any country. You can ask our partners. They know this. Today, the CEO of NNPC does not see any paper document today. 3 years ago, that's not possible. Today, now, by sheer governance process that we have put in place, by automation that we have put in place, by changes to our own practices over what we have always known, And because it is only a requirement of good governance, best practice, that this has changed because we are now a commercial company. There are things we can't do anymore. There are a number of interventions that NNPC has always done. We can't do them anymore. There are costs that sometimes we bear. We can't do them anymore. And ultimately, the end result is that this company is bringing value. We understand the glitch that is caused by the fuel situation today. Absolutely understandable. It has beclouded everything else. But we understand also that this company has changed and it has transformed. It's a very different company. And there's a way of testing also this. When you go to borrow, lending institutions look for certainties, governance, transparency, accountability. Do you have the right system and processes? And that has been tested in the last 1 year since our incorporation. And today, we closed lending deals within 3 months. I'm sure that you may be aware that 3 years ago or 4 years ago, you probably need 2 years to close lending deals. And this is also an indication, because the market knows this. If you test the market, they will tell you that it's a very, very different company. That's why we can lend to this company.
You must have a profit projection for the year end that you're looking at. What would that be?
I don't want to speculate.
Yes. But you should have had something.
I know we'll make a profit.
But if you did the last time of over 600 billion, and that's a progression from over 200 billion.
Let me put it differently. This is not it's a 600 billion profit company. If you look at the assets that are in our kitty, today we have over $60 billion worth of assets with the company. And we know companies that have far less assets in their hands, far less opportunities in their hands, declaring profits in the range of $5 to $10 billion. So it's nowhere near our ambition. It's nowhere near our capability. It is nowhere near our possibilities. And therefore, what we see, this is a multi-trillion naira profit company. And we are heading to this. It is very practical. It's very, very realizable. Would it happen this year? I do not have the numbers to back it up. But I know that by law, this company must be fully ready for IPO in 3 years after first incorporation. And I believe very strongly that we will be one of the Fortune 100 companies by the 3 years. And this is very practical.
All right. Just to wrap up, things have gotten bad in terms of oil theft. In August of last year, the nation's crude oil production hit a low and abysmal levels of less than 1 million barrels for a crude sufficient giant like Nigeria and a strategic member of OPEC. The levels even fell far lower than the OPEC quota for Nigeria, leading to loss of revenue and several production cuts and threats by oil companies to divest their interest in Nigeria. And all these have been attributes to oil theft. How did things go that bad?
Let me start from the better part of it. For the days that countries, companies, nations can rise to challenges. And we rose to this challenge, and today, from the low numbers that you have counted, we have gone below a million barrels per day. Today, we are doing 1.6 million barrels per day. That means recovery in the excess of 600 million barrels per day. This didn't come from the blues. There were interventions of all parties, government security agencies, our private contractors, our oil and gas companies, and very many others, including international stakeholders, to see how we can contain this situation. And oil theft is oil theft. Today, when we started, around July last year, we have thousands of insertions on our pipeline. We have seen, I'm sure you must have seen this in some of the media outings that we've met, where you have seen installations on our pipeline that could be as old as 10 years. That means it's a systemic, age-old practice that we probably didn't pay too much attention to. But the reality today is that we have seen the problem, we have seen the challenge, we have risen to this challenge as a country, and we are seeing the outcome of those interventions. But why would this happen in the first instance? I think that's the key question that needs to be answered. When you allow your assets to become vulnerable, over a period of time because of a number of interventions that you couldn't do, a number of social engagements that you're probably not able to do properly, and ultimately it builds up to this situation. And what we're doing now is to correct all this, increase the social engagement, participation of the communities, give them a stake in this intervention that we're doing, and to making sure that delivering crude into the terminal serves everybody's interest. First of all, resources will be available, jobs will be created along the right-of-way of these pipelines, communities will benefit from it, and ultimately the larger Nigerian population will benefit from it. I think this is the way that it has worked, And I'm sure that we'll continue to improve on this so that ultimately we can recover our full production.
Are people being held responsible for this theft?
Today, I don't have the real numbers now, but if I anticipated, I would have come up with you. I know we have made hundreds of arrests now. A number of people have been prosecuted. Institutions are being investigated today. And without, so that I don't become prejudicial to the process, that I don't want to mention names, but I know that including high-profile people have been in part of this, and they have been handled.
Let's close this conversation and in this manner. The essence or the reason or the purpose of this conversation is about the groaning and the pains of the average Nigerian, some of those who do not understand the technicalities of what these problems are. And it is unbelievable, and some of them cannot even wrap their heads around how Nigeria, that has huge deposit of this product under the soil, will be suffering for the product just for them to move around. What promise can you make if you tell Nigerians, millions of them who are watching you tonight, that in the foreseeable future, this kind of problem will not be seen? And the fact that what soothing and what of hope can you tell them this hour that will give them some kind of relief from the pains of the past few months?
First of all, I apologize for this situation. On behalf of all of us in the stakeholders in the oil and gas industry, definitely not surely exclusive. But having said this, it's unfortunate. It's a glitch. We are responding to this glitch. We'll resolve this. I will bring succor and relief to Nigerian people. No doubt about it. No one orchestrated this. We have no benefit in doing this. We have families. We are members of part of this community. We are very, very proud of this country. We would like this country to prosper. We don't want Nigerians to suffer. And, of course, as a matter of conviction, that we don't think that anyone should go through this. Now, having said this, you must have energy security in your country. That's what every country does. You know, in many countries, you find out that it's the armed forces who actually keep the strategic stuff for their countries, because that's very critical, so that you don't run into the kind of situation that we are seeing today, even when it happens, so that you're able to come out of it very, very quickly. By the way, you know, having fuel queues is really not something that is local to any one country. It happens everywhere whenever you have other glitches of price, pipeline issues, and so on and so on. But we don't hope that this happens to our country. But you must have guarantee of supply in your country, which is why we're focused on delivering our refineries, rehabilitation projects, so that ultimately this product becomes close to us. The Dangote refineries come by. The combination of this is that you will have product close to you. Now, this hasn't happened. The refineries rehabilitation is not completed. The Dangote refinery hasn't taken up. They will happen. Both of them will happen. Once that happens, you have the safety and security of supply near you. But in the absence of this, what do you do? Just like any other country who may not have those resources, is to import. And the guarantee I have now is that NNPC has locked supply into this country, irrespective of the financing situation the challenges that we are facing. So we do not have delivery problem, we do not have supply problem, that we are sure that the requirement of 63 to 66, whatever volume, you know, up to 66 million, the NNPC has made plans, the vessels are arriving, they are in line of sight, and people can check this. They are not hidden. In fact, we are actually considering publishing the name of the vessel that people can see, except for some security consideration. Otherwise, we have firm supply arrangement in the country. Now, the next thing you have to do is to deliver this product from this mother vessel into fuel station. To that, you need marine vessels, you need depots, you need trucks, you need to engage stakeholders, you need to have support of government security agencies, you need to have support of state governments.
Are you getting that?
Yes, I think I can.
Are the independent marketers on board?
Would all, and I'd like just to thank them for they have given us all the cooperation that we require in the last 2 weeks. We have reached agreement and understanding with them. We are managing the prices jointly with them. They are making sure that trucks will be available. We are able to meet the requirements for this truck to move around, and we're also able to provide every other support that is required, including by government security agencies, to make sure they deliver to this. I think we have a sight of relief.
So 1 week, Nigerians will see a dramatic difference.
There will be a difference, absolutely.
When do you think that we can stop this importation?
As soon as the Dangote refineries comes up and we complete our refinery rehab project, you are done.
Maybe what time? Maybe what month?
The Dangote refinery is planned to come up latest by the half of this year. Some of our fuel plants will come out. I believe that this year, before the end of this year, we'll be net exporter of petroleum product as a country.
Mr. Ameliorate, Group CEO of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
Thank you, Okibaba.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yes, sir.